At exactly 3 in the morning, the knock began. It was small and polite, like a child who knew how to wait. The first night, I blamed the wind. The second night, I blamed my imagination. By the fourth night, I stopped sleeping. My name is Daniel. I live alone in a narrow house with thin walls and floorboards that whisper. The clock on my mantel chimes 3 slow notes every night. The knock comes with a third chime, steady and punctual. I opened the door once and found nothing. Rain hung from the railings. No shoes, only a faint smudge on the mat. The next morning I found a tin soldier half buried near the hedge. Its paint had peeled. I kept it on my shelf. The sound was not rough. Once a voice, small and thin, asked through the wood, "Are you awake?" I put up a camera and watched the footage with coffee cooling. The video showed the porch empty. The audio caught a lullaby that started and stopped. Mrs. Ellery from next door brought biscuits and a look that asked for a story. She had lived on the lane for decades. 3 o'clock, she said. Always 3. She told me of a boy who used to knock for tea, a thin child who vanished one night. People called it an accident. I did not remember the boy. The knock felt like a past leaning close. It settled into the house like fog. On the 8th night I answered. The chain stayed on. The hall smelled of lemon and rain. No small shape stood on the step. Then, behind my left ear, something whispered, "You promise." The phrase opened a door in my mind. I saw a yard and a tree and a boy with mud on his knees. I remembered a watch. Memory is a house with locked rooms. I had been good at closing doors. I walked to the orchard where boys used a race. In the mud, I found the other half of the tin soldier, and a child's watch stopped at 3. Rain had filled its face. The knocks were not violent. They were a slow weather that taught me to listen. Small marks began to appear in the house. A toy where I had sat, a pebble in the sink, a paper boat on the sill. Nights became a strange ritual. I waited for the third chime and held my breath. The knock arrived like clockwork. Sometimes it tapped once, sometimes 3 times in slow, careful beats. I recorded the sounds and played them back at dawn, searching for a pattern. The recording showed only soft breath and a child's hum. Once, between static, I heard a small scrape, as if a toy had been pushed across wood. Sleep grew thin. I dreamed of a boy who left small things for me. A pebble on a windowsill, a pencil stub under the lamp, a folded paper boat floating in a glass. Each morning one of those things was where I expected nothing. The house filled with these tiny proofs like footprints in wet sand. I tried to explain it. A prank, perhaps? The sound carried from somewhere else. Fear-making stories from rain. None of these felt true. There was patience in the knock, and a loneliness that smelled of rain and old paper. When I dug in the garden, I did not know what I sought. The soil was cold and held on. Roots snagged my fingers, and the mud folded under my nails. The tin soldier's other half came loose first. Then the watch. Its hand stopped at 3. Wrapped under the watch in a thin cloth was a photograph. The picture showed 2 children under a tree. One wore a grin that felt familiar. The other had mud on his knees. The photograph moved something in me like a key turning. I sat with it under the lamp until dawn. I wanted to call someone, but who answers for ghosts or for guilt? Mrs. Ellery could tell me stories. The police would call a file. My answers sat in my hands like small, heavy stones. I dug in the garden with my bare hands until the earth gave way. Under the soil, I found a name tag scratched. Tommy. Beside it was a small drawing on tin. A house, a tree, 2 stick figures. One figure had a clock. Guilt is a strange thing. I had carried it like a stone and thought it mine. The knocks were the stone tapping at the door. One night, I left the chain off. The knock came, and I bent to pick up a scrap of paper on the mat. It read, "You promised you'd come back." The ink had smeared. My hands trembled. After that, the house changed. The sound of the knock stayed, but I no longer panicked. I kept the tin soldier on my shelf. I put a light by the door. At night, I listened to the lane breathe. The knock stopped the morning after I stopped running. There was no dramatic finish. The sound simply did not return. The watch was gone from the hedge. The soldier pieces were no longer buried. I did not know if I freed anyone or if someone freed me. I only know a small hand once pressed my door at 3 in the morning, and I answered. When the clock chimes 3 now, I stand by the window and whisper, "I'm here." Sometimes a sound like a small laugh drifts back, and I am war with a feeling of being forgiven. I felt a pressure to do something true. The small things had weight. They were not tricks. I could no longer walk past the door as if nothing had happened. A promise is a thin rope until you pull on it. I pulled, and the rope taught me how to stop running. I stood by the door and listened,